Are you struggling to come up with original content week in and week out? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients, let them talk about what they care about most, and never run out of content ideas again. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We're here today with Andrea Kayal, CMO at Upserve. Andrea, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Logan. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for coming on. A repeat guest, Andrea. We've had you on before sharing with our audience, but you've recently made a change here in the last 3 months. You became the CMO at Upserve. So I would love for you to give our audience a quick introduction of yourself and what you're up to these days with your recent change.
Sure. So you're correct. I made a change in the last 3 months to move from Signpost, which was an AI-driven CRM, to Upserve. Upserve is restaurant technology that basically connects the whole house. So all the way from the front of house, the POS system, where like they're punching in the orders and taking payments, all the way to the back of house, where we have things like kitchen display systems and our latest acquisition, which was Simple Order company in Tel Aviv, which is now Upserve Inventory. So been really awesome to see how to integrate a new company and how to add that to the marketing for your team.
Yeah.
But between the two companies, the one sort of common denominator is the target buyer is in this case a restaurateur. And I personally love sort of like the SMB side of the market, mainly because they act like consumers. So your marketing can be a bit more fun and it's transactional. So the sales cycles are, about 21 days, which is really awesome because you can really see like the fruits of your marketing labors, if you will, because you go from, the marketing to the sale pretty quickly.
Yeah. So a lot of change for you lately, not only in a new position, but an acquisition that your company just made and kind of merging those two together. You've been pretty busy lately. That's awesome. Well, I think that all lends itself, really well to this topic today of, organizing a marketing team. As we were talking offline, this is something that is really top of mind for you because of all these changes that you're going through. So I'd love to dive right in, Andrea, and talk about, as you were getting ready to make this jump and make a move and start leading a new marketing team, you really mentioned that you had to start with a goal, right? And so tell us a little bit about that thought process and where you began in thinking about organizing, a new marketing team for you as you jumped into a new role.
Yeah, it's actually it was a very exciting challenge, mainly because, the vision for Upserve is pretty unique in that, we have a lot of growth ahead of us. And I inherited a large marketing org. I have about a 20-person marketing team today. We added up another 3 when we acquired Simple Order. So, close to 25. And the goal for me, though, was to make sure that the team was paddling in the right direction. So, to do that, I wanted to make sure that, we had a strategy in place around an objective that mattered for the business. Marketing is the very top of the funnel. And so we are tied to revenue objectives. And for me, it was really just understanding what our pipeline goals were. And obviously that's the leading indicator for the sale. That's, marketing taking the ball all the way to the 5-yard line for sales. And so, at that handshake, really committing to a pipeline target was important for me. Before organizing the team, it was just setting a goal. And my goal for Q3 was setting the bar 10% higher than the annual operating plan. So once that was set, it allowed me then to focus my efforts on the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great lesson. As we were talking a little bit offline, you mentioned that, it's really tempting, especially as you're jumping into a new team and you're excited about it. Like you said, it was a very exciting new opportunity for you. You want to jump in and start executing. But you mentioned that, it's very important to stop, take a step back and set that one large goal, so that then you could break it down from there. So once you had that goal in mind and you knew, what that big high level objective was, what were your next steps from there, Andrea?
Yeah, so the company participates in an OKR setting, which I am a massive fan of, allows us to have aspirational goals with key results that are tangible. The key result can be binary, like yes or no, I did this. In marketing's case, though, we're tied to revenue numbers. So everybody could get really specific about what we were to achieve. So I would say, first in the OKR setting, which is one of the first things I did when I came, I took the team, all 20 marketers, and I made it. We participated in a 2-hour session where it was like highly collaborative, where I put the goal out there and I said, listen, the goal for us is 10% above our annual operating plan. Like, how do we get there? Now, everybody had roles, but in order for me to make sure that they're all paddling in the same direction and they have like clear demarcation for like their functional areas, we set the target, and which is basically the key result for the objective, right? We have to grow the business. The key result that would allow marketing to say we've grown the business is to set the bar 10% above the AOP. Right. So when we knew that, I set 2 objectives for the team. One is dramatically increase the number of restaurateurs that find us. And the second is set best-in-class industry for converting those restaurateurs to pipeline. So we had very specific objectives for the business. And under that, key results, that means that would have indicated we did that. So once we set those together, everybody could really easily line up against the objectives and key results. Some of them cascade, some of them are standalone, but organizing people around our ability to go do that was the next step. And I can talk in a second about how the team is organized, Logan, but did that get to the answer of the question?
Yeah, I think, you break down that goal into those objectives, underneath that. And then from there, you got very tactical in defining those functional roles, like seeing where there's overlap, and tell us a little bit more about kind of those next steps in how you started to, keep people in their lanes or allow them to stay in their lanes.
Absolutely. And I'm sort of like a fanatic about lanes because we don't have the opportunity to duplicate efforts. We have competitors who are out there in the market spending lots of money with bigger teams than I have. So I need to make sure that everyone is focused on different sets of key results. And so to do that, I looked at the 2 objectives, right? One is dramatically increase the number of restaurateurs that find us. So that's what I call like a growth team. So there is a director of growth, Andrew Smith, who's running a team of 4 people. That is somebody who oversees SEM, or basically all of our paid investments in channels that allow us to get found. So that could be like review sites or, Facebook or AdWords. There's also SEO. There's no, I don't think anybody is confused about what that is. There is affiliates and associations and partners, somebody overseeing like all the ways in which we can attach to people who've already endeared themselves to restaurateurs.
Right.
And then the last is events. That's the last one we added. We didn't have events headcount, so I added that, right? Like those are all the ways in which we can dramatically increase the ways restaurateurs find us. And so they all have key results that align to something that would say, yes, this is going to get us to 10% above AOP.
Right.
So that's the growth team. And then the second objective, which is set best-in-class standard for restaurateurs, like set a best-in-class standard for the conversion of restaurateurs. Once we drive them in, let's convert them. That's a majority of that is actually managed by a team. Like both of these, by the way, are everybody's problems. But the team that I lean on for that is what I call communications team. I just made a recent hire for this senior director of communications who's going to oversee the 7 people that work on our communications. So that's 3 on the content side, 2 product marketers, a customer marketer, and PR. So their job is basically to make sure once we get found, restaurateurs know that we're the solution of choice. And that we do that because we've communicated our solution to them in a way that resonates and that they find value. And then obviously, like, the customer marketer is working with customer marketing or customer success team to make sure that when people are happy, we use those same customers to help convert others. So those are the two teams that like work on the objectives. And then obviously I have like this, what I call the engagement team. So that's where like we have a web developer, we have a designer, Marketo, I have a performance analyst. So that's the team over there that sits to like make sure we're just like enabling the other two teams to be like move fast.
So in this idea of, making sure that there's no wasted effort, that people are staying in their lanes, did you find some overlap, or how did you go about finding, where there could be some overlap and where you needed to tweak their approach to make sure that they were staying in their lanes and there wasn't overlap? And because, as you mentioned, there are a ton of different channels. So tell us a little bit about, you mentioned a 2-hour collaboration session, some of the things that you did to really kind of parse this out.
Yeah. So I can give you a specific example on overlap. And some of it still happens today. Like some of it's natural just because the team's so cross-functional. But the guy that helps make sure that we get found, if somebody is writing or searching in like, what should I name my restaurant? Or I need a restaurant POS. Those are two very different things, right? Like somebody is at a very different stage of the buying funnel when they type in restaurant POS than they are like a restaurant name generator. But the way that we would pop up for that is because it's the right content. So there was overlap because we had a content manager who was focused on SEO and our SEO manager is focused on SEO. So again, I think it does go back to just the key results, right? If you have a key result that is specific enough, it's sort of like self-policing because they know which parts of their job need to focus on what. So I'll give you an example. The SEO manager should be going to the content marketing manager and saying like, look, I found in my research that these 4 things are trending and we need to write about them. And then that content manager is just to write them. Give him the content to go do that. And he can tweak it by adding keywords but his job is to increase our traffic by 20%. Then he needs to be making the recommendations to the content marketing manager. And
so
her
again,
job, go ahead.
I was going to say, just there's that overlap there, but it sounds like, you found a clear line to divide that, who's doing the research, who's doing the production,
the writing,
and exactly into those things. Yeah.
You just tie it back to the key results. If you make it specific enough, then it tends to work itself out. But there's always going to be some overlap in some of the work, but minimizing that is important.
Yep.
All right, today's growth story revolves around search engine marketing, and we'll be shining the spotlight on Aegis Software, a company that makes software for manufacturing operations. Aegis was one of the first companies in their space to invest in search marketing, but as competition grew, their performance plateaued. To counter this, they hired Directive Consulting, the B2B search marketing agency. With unparalleled experience in inbound lead gen for B2B companies, Directive was able to increase Aegis's monthly online leads by 457%, while at the same time lowering their cost per lead by 147%. Now I have a hunch that Directive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
Tell us a little bit about how you organize that session to make it collaborative. Because as we were talking offline, I thought that was a really good lesson for our audience in that, you're starting a new team. You didn't just go from person to person and say, here are your tasks, here are your tasks. You kind of led this, collaborative discussion so that people could discuss what they're working on and find those overlaps. And then, like you said, lead to, ongoing self-policing.
Yeah. So it was a 2-hour session. Before that session, I had met with everybody individually about generally like what would they consider objectives and key results that they want to share with the team in order to hit our objectives based on, the getting found and converting. So they came with points of views, but we work them out together because with everybody in the same room and allowing each other to see what they were focused on. One, surface like the rationale for like why this should be mine and why I think it's going to help us. Like it's a one team mentality. And that's the culture at Upserve. It's one team, you know, it's very, very collaborative, inclusive environment. And so, you know, because of that, it allows for more, I think, more of this like unique approach. And it's funny because one of the other things I implemented, which was helpful for me in this process of not only like running an OKR process, but like managing the team, we have a book club. We meet for 30 minutes once a week. And the first book we read together is Radical Candor. Have you read that, Logan? Have you read Radical Candor?
I haven't read that one, but it is going on my Amazon book list right now.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept by this woman who wrote it, Kim Scott. She worked at very large corporations, but there's really only two principles. Well, there's two axes really, like care personally and challenge directly. And so like in the order, like if you care personally about each other and like the results and the goals, you can challenge each other directly. And that's the environment I want to have. So my goal in this session is like, look, I care deeply about the success of this business. I care about marketing is like a contributor. I care about you all personally, but we need to be able to just know that, get that out of the way and like challenge each other directly. So I'm like, look, speak now or forever hold your peace. If you see anything up here that does not map to the goals that you think we should have as a team, get it out. If not, I take that as you agree and we're going to keep it moving. So, So
clear sets a roadmap for clear expectations, and they're contributing to those expectations because you're opening up the floor, right? Like you said, speak now or forever hold your peace.
Here's your opportunity. Absolutely. And if they're to challenge directly, we all know that they care personally. So it's not, you're not supposed to take it as an affront. It's like, we just want to make sure like, you know, that we've aired concerns and then we can keep it moving.
Yeah. Oh, Andrea, I love it. I love the practicality that you bring in making sure that you start with a goal, you know, make sure you take those planning steps. Don't just jump straight into execution. The way you're breaking it down and finding overlap. I think those are some very tactical takeaways and ending with this. I mean, it's kind of an age old adage of, you know, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so you start with that, you know, I care about you personally, but then it eliminates that challenge directly. Whereas, you know, if you don't lay that foundation, then you feel like if you need to push someone over into their lane or you need to kind of police what they're doing, then it comes across as passive aggressive or, you know, it creates this culture that doesn't lend to collaboration. So I love that we ended on that because I think that is, whether it's a marketing department, a sales team, an HR team, it doesn't matter. That's something that anybody can.
It applies everywhere. Exactly.
Yeah. I love that. Well, Andrea, this has been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it. If people want to connect with you, reach out to you, follow what you and the team at Upserve are doing, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
I'm on Twitter, Andrea M. Kayal, or you can shoot me an email at andreakayal@upserve.com. And I'm always online, so feel free to reach out whenever.
Awesome. Well, Andrea, thanks so much. Before we let the audience go today, we're going to do another shout out. If you've been listening for the last couple of weeks, you know that at B2B Growth, we are very excited about the Flip My Funnel conference that is coming up very, very soon now, August 8th in Boston. If you are planning to go there, learn some marketing strategies, a lot about ABM going on, obviously. When you go to get your tickets, we've got a special promo code for B2B Growth listeners. Very simple. B, the number 2, B Growth, just like the show name. If you go to flipmyfunnel.com, go to the 2018 conference, and when you go to get your tickets, use that promo code B2B Growth, and look forward to seeing you in Boston.
There are lots of ways to build a community, and we've chosen to build the B2B Growth community through this podcast. But because of the way podcasts work, it's really hard to engage with our listeners. And without engagement, it's tough to build a great community. So here's what we've decided to do. We're organizing small dinners across the country with our listeners and guests. No sales pitches, no agenda, just great conversations with like-minded people. We'll talk business, we'll talk family, we'll talk goals and dreams. We'll build friendships. So if you'd like to be a part of a B2B growth dinner in a city near you, go to b2bgrowthdinners.com. That's b2bgrowthdinners.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.